You guys seem to like the last video I did where I reproduced some of my subscribers' demos, so yeah, I'm gonna keep doing it. If you watch this video and you enjoy it and you would like me to take a stab at recreating one of your demos, join the Discord in the description. There is a channel in there that will show you how to do it. But also, just a quick plug for me, this is what I do for a living full time. If you see me doing this and you think we would have fun working on a project together on an actual release that you get to put out, there is also a web form in the description. But yeah, with that out of the way, let's just jump into it. So first, let's just look at the track and see what we have.
We could be an island, waking up with no plans, or going down the same lines, and partying like rock stars.
This was submitted by a C. Daniel, who's part of the Discord. He said in his description of the track that it started out as synthwave, but ended up being a war on drugs thing, which is totally a fine direction to take it. I think it would work really well as just a synthwave track, and I've been hungering to make some synthwave. So maybe what we could do is we could take it, make it synthwave, and then add like a couple of like acoustic layers on top of it to keep it from being just full laser grid Lamborghini. So let's just start out with a basic Juno and try to figure out what chords we're using. I like that one, the Journey one. So I think it's a 1, a 2, like a 1/3, and then a flat 7. Okay, that's actually a cool progression. I just want to get like some really cheesy 80s layers going, because you can always dial back the cheese, but if you don't have like that vintage flavor, it's kind of hard to put in. All right, so now we at least have a loop going, maybe a lower octave. So if you notice that you have the synth sound and your MIDI is hitting on the downbeats, but it feels like it's hitting it and then sliding, it's probably an envelope attack issue. So just lower your attack on an envelope. Normally just look for an envelope, and if the attack is high, just try bringing it down and that'll normally solve the issue. Let's do some analog dreams. I'm not really using them that often right now, but this would almost be a perfect thing to use them for. Yeah, let's try using this guy. It might be a little too nasally, but we could layer it up later. So I like that. We're gonna high pass it, do a little bit of carving, and then some MoTT to sort of shine it up. Now you might listen to it and think, that's not a great bass sound. And you're right, because we're not using it as a bass sound. We're using it as a sort of mid-range layer to fill out that upper mid-range of the bass, because we're going to use it as a way to fill out that sort of upper mid-range of the bass. Because in my experience, when I'm doing synthwave stuff, that is probably the hardest part, is just trying to get a plucky bass sound that actually pops out of the mix a bit without just completely destroying everything, because that like boom, 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 boom bass is kind of the hallmark of synthwave stuff, and it's really hard to get a synthwave vibe if you're not doing that. So now we've got this nice chunky mid-range layer and this sub layer. We're just gonna blend them together a little bit. And now that these two don't have delay on top of them, we can add some after the fact, which is probably the best way to do it. Like, one of the biggest reasons why it's hard for people to get sort of a nicer reverb sound on a lot of their patches is because they're using the default reverb and delays that are built into the presets that they're using, which is fine. And they sound great on their own, but sometimes you need to turn them off and then run them into a bus just so everything feels like it's matching. So let's use a medium gate. I feel like the kick and the snare are always like the easiest things to add, so I almost want to find some other stuff first. Yeah, an annoying thing that you find out about like synthwave and disco stuff is the more dumb the loop you're using as like percussion layers, the better it works, just because it just sounds so dinky and weird. It just pops out of the mix right. Like already that just adds like so much more flavor to it than if I were to just do like a hi-hat. So here, let's get a drum machine going. So a way to keep things from getting boring with just a kick and a snare is to also have some other snare style element that only hits like one every other 4 times or something like that. Like this is our main snare sound. Like here, this wholesome snare on top of it, sort of a clap. So we have those guys, and what we're gonna do is do a little bit of a room verb on just those other guys and not the main snare. So now we have, and we'll just alternate between those two. Another thing you can do is add delay to one of them, which I think makes the hits feel even cooler. So let's just throw like a basic like ping pong delay. So we want it to be da 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 da. And when you have those two like alternating every once in a while, it just gives the whole beat a little bit more life. And if you want to, you can even do 2 more on top of that, and you can turn this into like an 8-bar loop instead of a 4-bar loop. Let's try to bring in some more of that War on Drugs sound by using real hats. One of the main elements of like synthwave is the electronic hats. So maybe if we swap that up a bit. These guys have a little bit of an annoying frequency in them. So already we've got something that feels like it's really moving. Let's sidechain these guys to the kick and the snare. So right now, I think the main meat of it is good, but I think that we need to extend out the like chordal stuff that's happening right now, because we just have it on one synth and we need some ARPs going. I also want to do kind of what they were doing here before, where they're like splitting this lead line and these chords into something else. So we're just going to mute the lead line, make this our mid-range booster. Yeah, so that feels like it's doing what it's supposed to be doing now. And so we'll high pass it and low pass it, so it's only taking up as much space as we need it to. We're on a spy mission right now. So we have this MIDI saved from doing those chords. I really want a bell. Bells are cool. They've got like so much high-end ring and plink to them that they can really blend on top of a mix and not get in the way of a lot of other things. They always sound good as like a cell phone jingle almost. Like you can see, they're just like pure resonant frequencies. So they can just stand out on top of a mix regardless of what you throw them on. So that's one ARP. And since it's such a high-end chimey thing, we can actually probably get away with doing another ARP. I feel like when you're making synthwave, you're picking one of 2 sounds. You're either picking something that's just stupid fat and taking up all the space and it's got so much character in it, or you're picking something that's like super simple and like out of the way and it can kind of be flexible around the other elements. So I like this because it has that same like high-end thing as the bell, but it's not as high-end reliant as the bell, so it could probably work at the same time. Also, getting things to separate rhythmically from one another is really important. So I'm doing this really simple, like offbeat 8th note thing where it's very short and staccato and the reverb's holding out and nothing else is really doing that rhythmically. So it can really stand out. might even pick a variation of these hi-hats. Slower one here. Because you can almost get a completely separate section going if you just replace the hi-hat on this guy. And then switch up 1, 2, 3, 4. So like one element that has the potential to like change this into like a whole different section. Because now I feel like that wants a crash. I almost want to throw on like a DX7, which is like a really cheesy FM synth from the 80s. I think we need guitar now. Let's try Corey Wong Neural DSP. I want something a little drivier. Pulling at the 500 is almost always what I have to do with this guy. I almost like the single note. Yeah, that could be like our A and B section differences. We'll do chugs for the first part and then that sort of... Then open it up more. And then we'll double track that. That's how you know somebody is good at tracking guitar, is if they track the note after they're supposed to finish recording, because these little transients of like scraping the pick into the next hit, if you don't have them, that's what makes guitar sound fake and edited. If you do not need low end in something like this lead line, then just high pass it out. Like, you don't need things reaching down lower. Like, honestly, a little bit past where that fundamental is not a bad place to put a high pass filter if you put it on like a 12 dB slope, because then it just fits. Yeah, and then this in the chorus. Just adding little bits of texture like that at the end. It just makes it seem a little bit better than one part looping over and over again. If you play a 4-bar loop 4 times in a row, but you change the last one, it can almost have the effect of seeming like a 16-bar loop, and it's a lot less work. So we can have this be the verse and have it be a low chorus here and then a solo after that. And then we can arrange it out a little bit more. Another thing to keep in mind with this genre is you can have sort of extended periods of nothing really changing, and then having one element come in and just sort of add new life to the section. It's almost like you're changing gears, staying there for a bit, then changing gears, staying there a bit. If you listen to Random Access Memories by Daft Punk, you'll see like so many of those songs are just one thing happening. And then after like its 16th time through, it'll add a hi-hat, and that hi-hat just feels like such a big moment. And then I want to do some risers, actually. Another thing to keep in mind is synthwave is essentially an EDM genre, so don't be afraid to do some like wacky stuff. Like a riser like that just sounds stupid in pretty much any other context, but it's like heightened nostalgic 80s emotions, so it fits. Let's do a tom fill. You can also just, with these 80s tom things, just like chop them up. Like, maybe cut out the kick for those things. Okay, we did go more purple Lamborghini than I thought we would, but I think it works. All right, I think that's it. Here, let me just show you what's in my head right now. I found like an old 80s video that I'll put on top. So yeah, that's what the final track sounds like. Again, if you guys want to submit your track to be reproduced by me in whatever way I see fit, you can join the Discord down below. If you like this kind of content, please like and subscribe. It is genuinely the way that I determine whether or not I want to keep doing certain kinds of content. So yeah, I enjoy doing these. I'd love to keep doing them. But yeah, I will see you guys next week.